My name is Robert Halle. I'm 57 years old, and I never thought a quiet sunrise visit to my old farmhouse, the place where I built my entire life, would turn into the moment my world came crashing down. But sometimes life has a way of revealing truths at the exact moment you least expect them. And that cold morning, with fog crawling across the fields and frost clinging to the windows, I walked into something far worse than any nightmare. I had been away for a week on a business trip, a trip that drained me so deeply that all I wanted was a few hours at the farmhouse I inherited from my father, a place I kept as a sanctuary from the noise of the world. And as I parked my truck near the porch, I noticed something strange. The side door was unlocked, a faint light was glowing from the kitchen, and the old house smelled like someone had been moving things. Dust stirred, memories disturbed, and I assumed maybe the cleaning lady came earlier than usual. But the moment I stepped inside, everything felt wrong in a way that made my heart beat slow and heavy. I heard voices, whispers, sharp breaths, hurried movements, and one of those voices I knew better than my own heartbeat. My wife, Claire, the woman I married at 25, the woman I worked overtime for so she could chase her dreams, the woman I loved through sickness, loss, and every hardship life threw at us. And her voice wasn't calm or casual, it was trembling, rushed, almost guilty. When I reached the kitchen doorway, I froze, because there she was, packing a box on the table we bought together in our young, broke years, the same table where we celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, and late-night talks about dreams we thought would last forever. Beside her was a man I had never seen before, a man younger than me, strong, familiar with her in a way that made something inside my chest crack like old wood. He was helping her lift my things. My tools, my shelves, even the cedar chest I had carved for her on our 10th anniversary. The chest she had once sworn she would never let go of no matter what. But now she was shoving it into a box as if it meant nothing. I stood there long, enough for my body to feel cold even though the house was warm. And when I finally whispered her name, Claire, she froze like she'd been caught stealing something priceless, her shoulders tightening, her breath catching. And when she turned around, I expected guilt, maybe anger, maybe fear, but what I saw instead was devastation, like she wasn't ready to face the consequences of choices she had already made. The man beside her straightened up, trying to look confident but failing miserably, because even he knew he wasn't supposed to be there. I didn't shout, didn't rage, didn't demand explanations. I simply asked in a voice that barely belonged to me, "What's going on?" And Claire looked down, brushing her hair behind her ear the same way she always did when she was scared to tell me something painful. She whispered, "I was going to tell you. I just needed time," which made me laugh, one of those broken, hollow laughs that feel like they cut your throat on the way out because there were boxes everywhere. Half the house was already stripped clean, drawers emptied, frames gone, shelves bare. This wasn't someone who needed time. This was someone who had planned to disappear before I even came home. The man beside her cleared his throat as if he wanted to explain. But I raised a hand and he froze because I wasn't going to let a stranger narrate the end of my marriage. I asked her, "Are you leaving me?" And she pressed her lips together, tears forming, and nodded slowly, like the universe had just forced the truth out of her. I stepped deeper into the kitchen, each step feeling heavier, like I was walking through the rubble of a life I thought was still standing, and my voice shook when I asked, "Is he the reason?" She looked at me, eyes full of tears, and whispered, "No, I'm the reason." I lost myself. "Robert, I didn't know how to tell you without hurting you," but the words only stabbed deeper, because if she didn't want to hurt me, she wouldn't have been packing her life into boxes behind my back with another man standing in my house at dawn. I looked at the stranger, at the way he stood near her like someone she trusted, and though she said he was just helping, the air between them said otherwise. There was comfort there, understanding, a quiet history I didn't need to be told to recognize. I asked her, "How long?" And she broke, hiding her face in her hands as she sobbed, "Months, maybe longer." "I'm so sorry," and the apology felt like a knife wrapped in silk-soft words hiding a deadly truth. I looked around the room at the things missing, at the memories stuffed into boxes, and I realized she had already left long before she physically walked out of my home. She had drifted away silently while I was busy believing we were still a team. I wanted to scream, to beg, to demand she remember the promises we made under the old oak tree behind the house. But the man beside her shifted, and that movement snapped something inside me. She didn't choose me anymore. And no matter how tightly I held on to the past, love can't survive when only one person is fighting. She finally said, in a voice so soft it barely carried through the room, "I'm leaving today. I can't stay anymore." And I nodded, not because I accepted it, but because I didn't have the strength to argue with a heart that had already walked away. She carried the last box past me, whispering another apology that dissolved into the cold morning air. And the man followed her, giving me a look that wasn't smug or proud, it was guilty, like he knew he was part of something that shouldn't have happened. When the door closed, the house was so silent it felt like the walls were grieving with me. I sank into the nearest chair and stared at the empty shelves. At the memories ripped away, at the life I thought was solid, but it turned out to be dust. As the sun finally rose, bleeding light across the kitchen floor, I felt something shift inside me, not anger, not hatred, but clarity. Sometimes the people you love drift so far that pulling them back would only break you both. And sometimes the hardest truth is learning that you can't save someone who doesn't want to stay. That morning, I didn't lose a wife. I discovered that she had been gone long before dawn, leaving behind only the echo of a life we once dreamed of. And the silence that followed wasn't the end, it was the beginning of a life I would have to rebuild piece by painful piece.